Well, Tennessee Titans fans, today we are greeted by a man who is making my job very easy. Tony Squares on YouTube. I have found this video. Every day I get on here to see if there's a new disrespectful video that I can go find. And lo and behold, this one comes shining through. This video is called The Worst Team in the AFC, Tennessee Titans 2024 preview. Tony Squares. All right. Let's just see.
The Tennessee Titans sent Mike Vrabel packing this offseason and are moving forward with Will Levis and Brian Callahan from the Cincinnati Bengals. What does it mean for 2024, and how many games will this rebuilding team win, and is Will Levis the answer for the future? That's what today's video is all about. I'm diving into every NFL team from now until the season kicks off, and then doing NFL videos every day from now until the end of the Super Bowl.
There you go.
So give me a like, give me a follow, help this channel grow. I do truly appreciate it. But today, we're going through the Tennessee Titans schedule, which
I hate to have to do what I'm about to do, I'm afraid, because he seems like a good guy. He seems like a nice guy. Tony seems like a nice fella.
Changed from then until now, and that's a lot of things. And the three biggest stats that give me a sense of dread for this Titans team, I'm not going to lie to you. Let's start off with the changes, not just Vrabel and the bulk of the coaching staff, but a lot of this...
Got to get a better quality photo of the Titans logo. I mean, that is grainy. I mean, just right off the bat. Come on
roster
now.
Turned over as well. A bunch of veteran defensive players have now moved on to other teams for bigger prices. And instead, they've brought in some high-priced corners. Guy like Cal.
Who did they lose that would be like, oh no? I mean, you could make the case for Derek, but even that, when you look at that had to happen. Who else? Like Danico Autry, who's suspended for the first 6 games. Aziz Alshire, like Christian Fulton, I'm supposed to be upset about.
Alvin Ridley to help the wide receiver room, and of course Tony Pollard replacing Derrick Henry. Changes all over the place for Tennessee. Some of them good, some of them bad, and we'll go through a few of them later. But as for right now, the question remains, was it time for Mike Vrabel to go? Did this team need to make the changeover?
Y'all doing my guy Vrabel dirty, putting that picture of his belly hanging out. Right there. Y'all doing my guy Vrabel kind of dirty.
Coach that is widely considered to be one of the best in the league.
He's so widely considered to be one of the best that he's not a head coach this season. So not only did the Titans see a need to get rid of him, but the 8 other teams who were looking for a head coach decided to go in the direction of Raheem Morris, Dan Quinn, Mike McDonald, what's the dude? Dave Canellis. Those other teams. He's so great. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL. So great, in fact, that nobody hired him.
Was his message just not getting home anymore? That very well could be the case and can only be answered by the players inside that locker room. But I will say, while I like Callahan and I like the scheme that Cincy ran offensively, and it will definitely help Will Levis and the rest of this team succeed on offense, Mike Vrabel was a great coach, and Mike Vrabel won games that the team should not have won. Their record at home and against the spread throughout the years has been spectacular because of what Mike Vrabel brought to this team, and I'm a little bit worried.
Everything good about the Titans over the last few years is all because of Mike Vrabel. It was all because of him. How many times have we talked about this? Mike Vrabel built the city of Nashville. Mike Vrabel is the one who constructed Nissan Stadium where the Titans play. Mike Vrabel invented the game of football. He took the pigskin and he made it. He put the laces on the ball and he created the game of football. And then he invented the Lombardi Trophy. The Super Bowl was his idea. There would be no football today if it were not for Mike Vrabel. I mean, just unbelievable. Unbelievable that we're still going with this. The Titans have just been phenomenal at home. Look at the last 2 years. They were 6-11 last year. And we're sitting here talking about how great they've been and how great of a job he was doing. We don't talk this way about... Do you see why I do this series? We don't talk about any other coach like this. Unless it's somebody that coached for the Titans. Then all of a sudden it's, oh, well, what are they doing getting rid of him? He coached him to a 6-11 record. He had him. He got everybody hurt, and then managed to kind of win some games with the scraps that he brought in from other practice squads.
That change, the biggest of all, his ability to make chicken salad out of chicken shit of a roster, I think that's gone, and it's gonna.
I don't cuss on here, but he loved the chicken doo-doo. He loved the chicken dookie poo. He loved it. That's what Vrabel. That's what he loves. He loves taking the guys that wouldn't start or play anywhere else and trying to elevate them. That's what he loves to do. And then nobody forced him into that. He loved it.
Hurt Tennessee quite a bit. As for the additions, especially on the defensive side, yes, the cornerbacks were fantastic and are fantastic and will be fantastic, and I think they made the right decision to add those players to the Titans. But adding Kenneth Murray in a linebacker room that desperately needed help, a guy who has underachieved for every single snap he played as a Los Angeles Charger, did not make sense to me. Adding guys like Sebastian Joseph Day to be the defensive end on a line that desperately needs help creating.
Sebastian Joseph Day is not a starter. Sebastian Joseph Day is going to be a rotational guy who comes in sometimes. So, whatever. Kenneth Murray, I can kind of get on board with what he's saying there. I mean, the Titans' inside linebacker may be the weakest position on the team. But, again, when you are signing, you're totally reinventing your wide receiver room. You're totally reinventing your secondary room. You have to reinvent your offensive line. You can't do everything in one offseason. So, yes, at some places, you're going to have to just try to get a bargain. Like, you can't just get an A+ for what you do with every position in one offseason.
Pressure on the quarterback did not make much sense to me. Adding center Lloyd Cushenberry was a great addition, but should not have been the only addition they made to an offensive line, especially the right side of it that is extremely young and extremely bad. Yes, J.C. Latham and Skoronski could turn out to be great players. Skoronski did not have a great year last year, but the right side of the line, which are two other draft picks from the past few drafts for this team, is not good and could lead to a lot of trouble.
How do you even know? This is what kills me. I can handle if you want to sit here and be like, hey, it's a question mark. Those guys over there are a question mark. We don't even... Nicholas Petitfrere, who's going to play right tackle, didn't even play last year. Dylan Radins played a little bit at numerous positions. And Bill Callahan's here now. Like, how can we just say they're bad? You don't know if they're bad. They're a question mark, sure. They're unproven, sure. But to just be like, they're bad. You don't know if they're bad. You have no idea. And even if they've been mid in the past, that's why you go get Bill Callahan to coach them.
For Will Levis, a guy that we'll break down the stats of later. But Levis with a bad O-line that lets up pressure is inviting disaster for a Tennessee offense that needs all the help it can get. And lastly, the addition of Tony Pollard, who as a workhorse in Dallas last year had his lowest yards per carry and rushing touchdowns of his short career, enters into Tennessee, a team that lets Derrick Henry, King Henry, go to Baltimore Ravens of all teams, and instead decides to get a tiny bit younger with a position and still be as expensive. Tony Pollard's not a good running back. He's okay, and I think Tajay Spears will surpass him when it comes to the depth chart, and that's a good thing because Spears is very, very good. But paying Tony Pollard this amount of money for a guy that has...
These same people, I got to take the headphones off for this. These same people for the last 3 years be like, oh, Derrick Henry's washed. The Titans are boring. All they do is just hand it to Derrick Henry 30 times a game. He just gets 2 yards here, 3 yards there, and then finally in the fourth quarter he'll bust a long one. Like, everybody's been rolling their eyes at Derrick Henry for years and the way the Titans have used him. Then they replace him. Then they let him go because they want to change their identity because, like, we've been doing the same crap for 5 years and it doesn't work anymore. And everybody's just like, what are they thinking? What could they possibly be thinking doing this? Oh, they were supposed to give it to Derrick Henry 40 times a game for the rest of his career so that we could whine about it forever. But instead, they've gone with Tony. And this guy, Tony Squares, says this guy's not a good running back. He's not good. I mean, guys, the disrespect is off the charts.
Or had almost half a yard less yards after contact than the aging Derrick Henry did last season. This is a guy that cannot break tackles.
So Derrick Henry's aging, but it was wrong to let him go.
And cannot create big plays when he is asked to hold the wall.
He literally, in the preseason game the other day, had a 30-yard run. Don't tell me he can't create big plays. We've already seen him create a pretty good-sized play in the freaking preseason.
Of the running back position. So it's going to be Tajay Spears or bust and a waste of money on Tony Pollard. But that's enough of me talking out of my ass. Let's instead break it down.
Well, at least he's self-aware.
Statistically. Last year, this offensive line was so bad they were 30th in pressure rate and 27th in yards before contact. Again, Tony Pollard running behind a bad offensive line. Now, they got better with Lloyd Cushenberry and, of course, drafted J.C. Latham. Rookie left tackles aren't exactly perfect their first year in, and one center does not a great O-line make. This O-line is going to continue to struggle and put more pressure on Will Levis. The question is, will it be as bad as it was last year, which was terrible? Defensively.
You're not going to bring up Bill Callahan? Like, probably the most important thing they did for the offensive line this offseason is bringing Bill Callahan, one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL. That doesn't even get a mention. That doesn't even get a mention.
On the other side of the ball, the reason why this team was minus 19 in sack differential on the season, not just because they let up a bunch on offense, because they couldn't get to the quarterback on defense. And I believe will continue to struggle, maybe even more, at getting to the quarterback this year. As I told you, the additions they made to that front seven were not spectacular. Harold Landry is good, not great. Simmons in the middle is fantastic.
Oh my gosh. This guy's got some bold statements. Harold Landry's good, not great. If you released Harold Landry from this team, just about every other organization in the NFL would be lined up trying to get him. But he's good, not great.
Fantastic, but not exactly a guy you're expecting to get 20 double digit. Great. Simmons in the middle is fantastic, but not exactly a guy you're expecting to get 20 double digit sacks every single year. But
why not? If he's fantastic. If he's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, why not?
Instead, you got to go with pressures. And this front seven was 23rd in the league in pressures under 2.5 seconds. Bad, but not terrible, except when you learn that Danico Autry led the team in pressures and is no longer on the team. And instead, of course, it's Sebastian Joseph Day and a couple of outside linebackers that are general basement-level replacements.
Here's the thing. He's not lying. Pressure was a problem last year on both sides of the ball. Titans gave up too many pressures. They couldn't get pressure. But if you're going to talk about the future and how, you told me that everything about this team that was good was on Vrabel. Yet it was Vrabel and his staff who dialed up these blitzes, who tried to rely on their front four when they weren't getting home. We don't put any stock. What I'm trying to say is we don't put any stock into the fact that there's a new defensive coordinator who is much more aggressive. There's, a new coaching staff as a whole with a completely new outlook on the team. If you're going to talk, and he may get to it here in a second, how do you not at least bring that up? Yes, they could not get a lot of pressure last year. Danico Autry will not be playing for the Titans this year. He also won't be playing for the Texans for the first 6 games. But, I get, as far as last year was last year. And if everybody was coming back and it was just mostly the same crew this year, then maybe this would be appropriate to say. But to not even acknowledge, hey, they've got a new defensive coordinator in Denard Wilson. He might be able to salvage this. To just act like it's still going to be the same as it was, even though everything's different now. I don't know.
This team's going to have real trouble trying to get to the quarterback. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about Mayo boy Will Levis, who was coming into the NFL as an unfinished product. A lot of people knew this. And what we saw in the NFL last year did show hope, did show signs that this could be the guy. He needs to improve a lot, but as a Tennessee Titans fan, I can absolutely understand if you believe Will Levis is the future. He threw the ball 20 yards or more down the field on over 22% of his throws last year. That's fun to watch as any type of fan. In fact, it was almost double the amount of the guy who was in second place. 20 yards or more down the field, Will Levis is a chucking it, but that leads to some travesties along the way. Because not only was he just 23rd in the league in on-target throws 10 plus yards down the field, 21st in the league in on-target throws generally, he held onto the ball for so long he invited pressure. He was 26th in the world in time to throw from snap to actual pass attempt, which led to him being the third most pressured quarterback in the entire NFL, which led to him being the 39th at sack rate, which led to him, even when there was pressure and he did get the ball away, he was only 41st in accuracy when under pressure. Him holding onto the ball for too long and looking for the deep bomb every single time weakened this offense as a whole, and he needs to be more efficient throughout, and I believe he will be with Brian Callahan. Again, this offensive line is going to be as leaky as can be, and Will Levis needs to get the ball out quicker in order to make things succeed and make things work. And with Calvin Ridley, that should help, even though Calvin Ridley had as many drops as one could have in Jacksonville last year. Maybe it'll be different in Tennessee, maybe it'll all work out. But with injuries already to DeAndre Hopkins, with Tyler Boyd being on the wrong side of 30, I'm not exactly thrilled with the possibilities.
God. When you turn 30, you can't even run anymore. When you turn 30, you just may as well go get yourself a walker and go sit on the bench.
As other people are with this wide receiver core in Tennessee to build around Will Levis. Add on Tony Pollard once again, and it's going to weaken Will Levis's chances at success. Why do I say this? Because Will Levis last year on first down faced a stacked box at the 5th highest rate, meaning more defenders near the line of scrimmage because they were worried about the run at the 5th highest rate. So when he threw the ball on first down against those light boxes, it usually worked out because there were less defensive backs on the field. In fact, when Derrick Henry was on the field during a first down, defenses stacked the box 86% of the time. Mostly because Tennessee let everyone know that, hey, we're going to run the ball. Not exactly geniuses on the offensive side last year.
Who was the coach? Who was the coach that made that obvious every single time? Who was the coach who made it clear in every press conference he did that we want to run the football, we want to stop the run? Something to think about.
However, Will Levis still had an easier chance to throw the ball when Derrick Henry was on the field. No one in the NFL faced a stacked box more in their career than Derrick Henry has. Now it's Tony Pollard, which means those stacked boxes aren't going to be there as much because teams aren't going to be as worried about stopping the run. It's going to be more difficult than it was last year for Will Levis to complete passes in the NFL, and that could lead to some immense failure. But hey, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes, right? So let's break down this schedule game by game, quarter by quarter, and tell you how many wins and losses this Tennessee Titans team is going to have. A very low win total for them projected by Vegas. Should be pretty easy to hit this over. Let's see what they can do. And I got to tell you, these first 4 games, they ain't going to make the over so far. It's a very tough start for Tennessee. Good news is they have a Week 5 bye, maybe can adjust some things and try to get better.
In what way is a Week 5 bye good news? I'm skipping the schedule breakdown. 2-15 is the record he has the Titans with. 2-15. If the Titans end up being good, if the Titans end up having a good year, I'm going to be intolerable. There are going to be people suing me for character assassination. If the Titans end up being good, I'm hurting some people's feelings. I'm coming back to every dang one of these videos, and I am going to absolutely unleash a certain type of vitriol that has not yet been seen before. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. 2-15. I don't have to analyze that anymore. 2-15. Tony Pollard, not good. Will Levis, not going to be good. Offensive line, going to be just as bad as they were. Mike Vrabel, one of the best coaches in the league, not employed in terms of being a head coach. Defense isn't going to be good. Tony Squares, baby. That's what he had to say. See y'all next time.